inconvenience. Okay, we will continue. In this expert group session, we have participants from Butte, Glenn, Plumas, Siskiyou, and Lake counties. We will carry out similar expert group sessions in the future to reach out to more counties. As a result of the collaborative work between the consortium and local government partners in Glenn County and the City of Portland in the neighboring Upstate Consortium, on May the 7th, the City of Portland passed and implemented the first Dig Once ordinance and technical specifications in our consortia region. We look forward to supporting more local governments to implement similar policies and ordinances. Another policy that we are promoting is developing master lease agreements, which will help local governments reduce processing time and reduce the complexity of leasing publicly owned assets to internet service providers for expanding networks and services in the region. The Broadband Consortium has also been working with local governments to develop master broadband plans. These plans are aimed to provide an assessment of current landscape of broadband services for residential and business customers, including both wireline and fixed wireless services using CPUC broadband availability data. These plans also include recommendations for improving broadband coverage and speeds, developing and implementing local government policies, and also improving broadband service adoption. The recommendations for improving coverage and speeds focus on upgrading, expanding, or launching broadband networks and services to reach geographical areas of interest. The recommendations for developing and implementing local policies focus on reducing technical and economic barriers for new broadband infrastructure deployment. And the recommendations for improving broadband adoption include forming partnerships with existing organizations and programs to establish credibility and identifying best practices for outreach, implementation, follow-through, and success. Working in collaboration with local government partners, we have completed the first draft of the Tehima County Master Broadband Plan, and we are working on generating a final revised version. We are also in the process of generating broadband plans for more counties in the consortium region. Now, next topic, broadband priority areas. The consortium is supporting internet service providers to apply for CASF and also other funding sources to expand broadband infrastructure and services in priority areas in the region. For this purpose, we are putting together priority areas profiles for potential broadband projects based on CPUC broadband availability data and also feedback from local governments. At a high level, we are carrying out the following steps. First step, conducting preliminary assessment of unserved areas. We are using CPUC's broadband availability data of wireline and fixed wireless service to identify unserved areas and conducting an initial assessment of potential project areas. In this step, we generate maps and tables showing these unserved and potential project areas and send them to local government staff and elected officials for review and feedback. In March, we send digital maps to local governments of all counties in the consortium region. Second step, gathering local government feedback. In this step, we set meetings or conference calls with local government staff or elected officials to gather input and feedback on the preliminary assessment of potential project areas. This feedback includes the following items. Local broadband priority areas and needs. From the maps and list of unserved areas, we request input regarding prioritization of areas for projects based on local government needs. For example, including low-income residential areas or key areas for economic development. Local government asset inventory. For this feedback item, we request information of publicly owned broadband-related infrastructure in order to build an asset inventory which can help local governments to establish a strategic partnership with ISPs. Items for the asset inventory might include local government buildings, underground conduit, poles, water or communication towers, and also coming public works for excavation projects. Middle mile availability. For this feedback item, we also ask local governments for information regarding fiber optic backbones or middle mile infrastructure passing by their jurisdiction, which can help to provide an interconnection point for last mile projects. Some local governments have already reached out to us in response to our initial email and request for feedback. This webinar is a good opportunity to remind local governments to review the maps and tables we send and reach out to us in order to speed up the process of gathering feedback. Please also feel free to contact us if you have any questions on the maps and tables we send. Third step, reach out to ISPs. Based on the feedback from local governments, we complete the profiles of potential areas for broadband projects, including a status of broadband service, population, number of households, available local government assets, middle mile availability, community anchor institutions, among other information that might help ISPs to assess a potential business case for expanding service to these areas. In this step, we reach out to ISPs that may be willing to expand their coverage into these areas. We reach out to both incumbent and competitive ISPs and provide them with the project area profiles so they can assess submitting applications for CASF infrastructure grants. Very important, we also offer ISPs assistance to prepare grant applications.
Thanks, David. This is Alice Patterson. I wanted to just give you a brief update on some other outreach that we have been conducting and are conducting moving forward through the rest of 2018. Earlier this year, we were busy collecting data from our public safety agencies in all of our consortia counties. We collected data really to ensure that the upcoming deployment of FirstNet would meet the local broadband needs. And so we worked with local fire departments, sheriffs, and others to have them validate the accuracy of the public safety agency maps that we had provided them, and then, of course, add additional information if there was anything missing. And we provided that information to Cal OES in Sacramento, and they worked directly with FirstNet on deployment of this FirstNet emergency response system. So that went well. We were glad to be a part of that. The next project that we have been working on and continue to is our CalSpeed and Broadband Survey outreach. We have been in a number of your communities already, including Butte, Glenn, Modoc, Tehama, and Shasta counties. In those communities, we've conducted CalSpeed broadband testing and have been promoting our online business broadband survey. We want to thank you for your participation and your ongoing collaboration in this effort. Our next outreach will be in Plumas and Lassen counties, and I wanted to reiterate that if we have not come into your communities yet, that we are coming there soon, and look forward to working with all of you on best methods to reach your businesses and residents in an effort to gather their internet speed information, as well as information about how things are operating at their places of business. So I think that's it for now. I look forward to working with all of you moving forward.
This is Tyler Boyle. Next, just want to make everyone aware of the upcoming CalSpeed Home Broadband Study project. And this is a study led by the CPUC, which CSU Monterey Bay and the GIC are both partnering on. So in this project, we're going to be looking to get the CalSpeed testing devices into people's homes to test home broadband speeds and overall quality. And the boxes will allow us to automatically run speed tests on a set schedule. And that will be compared with users' subscribed speeds, and also we'll be comparing people's Ethernet and Wi-Fi connections to help the CPUC better understand the landscape of broadband connections throughout California. Currently, we're in a beta testing phase underway in Fresno County, and once that's complete, we're going to be reaching out to all of you in our region to help gather volunteers for this study, hopefully later this year. So keep an eye out for upcoming information in the coming months about this project and how you can help. Thank you.
So this is Courtney Farrell, and I'm going to update you on some new projects that we have just recently been awarded funding for. The first one is the Fairgrounds Assessment, and this is funding through Cal OES, Office of Emergency Services. And the purpose of this funding is to do or conduct a statewide assessment of the broadband capacity and connectivity within the fairgrounds statewide. And part of the reason that we're doing this is that, particularly now with us, again, facing many natural disasters with our fires, our fairgrounds are often our evacuation centers. And so at any given time, for example, during the Oroville Dam crisis last year, there were over 10,000 evacuees at one time at the fairgrounds. The challenge is that our connectivity within our fairgrounds is limited at best. And so it's very difficult for emergency responders to communicate. It's very difficult for our evacuees to communicate with friends and family to let them know that they're safe. And it's also challenging to notify the areas of where they should be going. So part of our assessment was to see what is existing, what's needed, what the proximity is to known infrastructure, and then David's expertise looking at what the design would need to be in order for them to be connected at 10 gigabit symmetrical, and then what the cost analysis would be for that. Our hope is that once we have that information, we will then be able to look for additional infrastructure funding to help those fairgrounds become connected. The other side of this is in non-emergency response times. We are hoping that the fairgrounds will then be able to use those networks, those broadband networks, for economic development and business activities to increase their revenue, not only for the fairgrounds, but for the communities that they are located in. The next project is our farm field broadband feasibility study that was just awarded through USDA. We are partnering with the Tehama Canal Authority for Glenn and Colusa counties and Tehama as well. And what we're looking here is that we jokingly call this our tall structure project, where we are looking for infrastructure that's in the farm fields that we potentially could build out wireless broadband networks on. So with this partnership with the Tehama-Colusa Canal Authority, we do have participants. We attended their board meeting this morning, where we had great enthusiasm and willing participants to give us not only the information from their farm fields, whether or not they have broadband capacity. We know that there are gaps in a lot of our fields, which challenges our farmers in terms of data uploading, downloading for field equipment repair, farm management in terms of, water management, pesticide management, so that precision agriculture element that is really necessary. And so once we have identified the infrastructure, we will analyze whether or not it's adequate for a wireless network. Again, we will design those scenarios, and then we will look at what the cost analysis is for potential public-private partnership. So those are the two latest projects that were funded, and these are examples of what we're looking for throughout the region so that we can continue to build out whether it's wireline or wireless networks to support broadband connectivity in each of our communities. Thank you.
CASF rulemaking proceeding. In February 2018, the CPUC, or 2017, the CPUC's assigned commissioner, Guzman Aceves, released the amended scoping memo and ruling, which included the procedural schedule and scope of the proceeding, R12-10012. The proposed ruling revised the scope of this proceeding to implement changes to the California Advanced Services Fund as required by the Assembly Bill 1665, or AB 1665, signed into law by Governor Brown in October 2017. This bill introduced key changes to the California Advanced Services Fund, also known as CASF or CAS, including new program accounts and new monies for some accounts. The proposed ruling included new methods of private-public partnerships, allowing and incentivizing the use of existing infrastructure, establishing strategies for investing in low-income households and communities for infrastructure and adoption goals. Following AB 1665, the goal of the CASF was revised to provide funding for infrastructure projects so that 98% of California households in each consortium region would have broadband access by the end of 2022. The rulemaking proceeding split into two phases. Phase 1, which included issues related to the broadband adoption, public housing, and loan accounts, and Phase 2, which included issues related to the infrastructure, line extension, and consortium accounts. For both phases, the CPUC Communication Division staff, or CD, prepared proposed requirements, guidelines, and questions. For the ruling, the CPUC requested interested parties to file comments on the staff proposal to implement the program. For this purpose, our consortium requested and was granted party status. This is the schedule for the proceeding. Our broadband consortium is closely following this rulemaking proceeding and participating in filing comments and attending workshops on behalf of our region. Furthermore, to file these comments, we are working in a coalition with the Redwood Coast Connect Consortium and the Rural County Representative of California. Well, that concludes the presentation section of the webinar. Thank you very much to all our presenters, and now we will open up the webinar for audience questions. Please feel free to ask questions by enabling your microphone or by typing your questions in the chat window.
Hi, this is Jeff Black from Plymouth Sierra. I have a question for Tyler.
Sure.
Hey, a question about the CalSpeed devices you were speaking about. When is the expected date? I know you said it's in the second phase of the beta testing in Fresno, but and should we take like interest, show of interest at this point in time, or is it too early for that?
It's a little early for me to know a more exact time frame when we'll be rolling out the boxes statewide. As soon as we've got some better information on that and have completed the beta test, we'll definitely be reaching back out with more information on the project and how to get people signed up. So I think that would be a good time.
Just kind of wait and see. But no, the only reason I'm asking is we have an annual meeting coming up in about 5 weeks, and I know this would be of interest to our co-op members if it was, a known date or available. Okay.
We can touch base with you before your meeting and let you know if we've got some better information at a time to give you.
Okay.
I was just going to add, too, we could probably provide you with some general language about the project as well, just so that you can inform your folks up there about what to expect and what's coming down the pipe, and we'd be happy to do that, Jeff.
That would be great. I know that people are really engaged in this topic here. They're always trying to, and they may, they hit us up all the time. So it'd be great to have that information available. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Bruce Deutsch from Siskiyou County. I'm the mayor of Dunsmuir, and I got 2 questions I'd like to kind of just throw out real quick. First of all,
Bruce, we're having a hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry.
That's it. Maybe what the spot you're in?
Is this any better?
There you go. That's better. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm asking two questions. Number one, has there been an expansion of what is considered an underserved region? So, for instance, Dunsmuir, Mount Shasta, Weed. Are we in any way looking at any further opportunities from funding because of where we are right now? I believe we're always considered served. The question is with regards to collection.
So, sorry, you're cutting out again. We think what you're asking is the served, unserved question for your communities within Siskiyou County, and if that definition has been expanded, and or are we looking for additional funding should it not fit the CAFTA funding? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you want to take that unserved, served, and I can take the funding?
Sure. Well, at this time, I don't know if there's any changes to the designations for California and the captive program. The standard is still at 6 megabits per second downstream and 1 megabit per second upstream. So I don't know offhand how. I know there is a large area in Siskiyou County, particularly in the eastern half of the county, that does show up as served. So I don't think there's going to be any change in that respect. But we are in the midst of working through the next round of data that will bring the map up to date to for December of 2017, and could bring a new picture to areas that are served and underserved in the county.
This is David. Last week there was a CPUC workshop in Sacramento. The commission mentioned that they were assessing the possibility of incorporate an element of adoption into eligible areas, in addition to just areas that ISPs report as served or unserved or 6.1. The commission were evaluating the possibility of including a threshold of adoption level. If, let's say, for example, a census block it had adoption level, let's say, above 40%, then it will still be considered ineligible. But if the adoption level was below, it can still be eligible and open for CASF funding. But there was still assessing that regards, and the commission will be accepting comments for that. I might probably upload that presentation from the workshop from the commission last week into the consortium website, so you can take a look at those aspects too.
And then on the additional funding question, so that's why we were highlighting those two projects that we just had funded it through USDA and Cal OES, and then we still are working through our EDA planning funding that we have, and so you're part of that work in Siskiyou County, which you're on our list to come to next, is to again do that CalSpeed validation. And if this change does come within the commissioner regarding the adoption, that'll be an element that will, potentially also help to collect that data. But if you do have ideas, and we've been working a lot with the Siskiyou EDC, but if you do have ideas or other infrastructure projects that we should be looking at, we're happy to do that too. EDA has been a really strong supporter of the broadband efforts that we've been doing, and then we're constantly looking at other funding sources outside of the state funding because of its limitations.
Okay, thank you.
Hi guys, this is Brett Mesker, Tama County. Couple questions I had was, one is how many of the CalSpeed devices are going to be rolled out throughout the state, and how many of those will be allocated to our consortium?
Statewide, we're going to have 500 boxes, devices to start, and we're going to be deploying them and then retrieving them from homes and then redeploying them to new areas. So we can kind of continue to test different areas. We don't have a specific target at this time on the number of boxes that are going to be deployed in any one region. We are going to be looking to distribute the boxes in a way, initially, I think, to be able to determine differences between urban and rural areas in the state. But as the project continues, we'll hopefully be able to collect enough data to talk about regions specifically.
Okay, that's fine. The second one I had was in regards to the FirstNet role. Is that your guys' role on that, just to try to work with them to see how that may enhance our connectivity in this area with the additional towers and connectivity that they're, I guess, going to be bringing to the area?
Yeah, so what we've been trying to do is really where we stand is last year, I think we've shared this with some of you, last year when we were at one of our consortia conferences, the Vice President of AT&T actually requested that the consortia statewide assist with the data collection to ensure that the FirstNet deployment matches what the actual needs are within the county. And I know, Brent, we've had this conversation. Because we were finding that there were gaps in their data. And so, as Alice mentioned earlier, we did do that rollout to all of our first responders and county government officials and things like that to validate what we knew. In terms of deployment of towers, we are not even, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not privy to that information either. We don't know where they're going to deploy and the time frame yet. They have not released that information. So as we find out, hopefully, and we're hoping now that we've made progress with having this new grant opportunity with Cal OES. It's allowing our agencies to work more closely together, which we didn't have before. So we're hopeful that with that partnership and, again, just working more with them, that we'll have a better line of communication to ensure that their plans match what our communities really need.
Perfect, yeah. So you guys are somewhat advocating for us as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the key things we're doing. I mean, we've made it very clear that, again, the data that they had, and what we did find out too is that we're having, and it makes sense, we're in the region, we're having a better response to our data requests than Cal OES's, so they do understand that it really is a partnership and that they should be using us as a vehicle to collect that.
Perfect, that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, good.
We will be also taking a look at if there's any updates in the AT&T timelines for deployment of FirstNet, and we will post those updates in the consortia website too.
Yeah, okay, that's good. The other thing too, I don't know if it's any help for you guys, but I guess I've been in contact with our Verizon rep, and he's also saying that I guess Verizon is kind of self-funding a public safety network with priority and preemption as well. In the near future, they will also be adding additional towers and connectivity to our area as well. So I don't know if that's any help to you guys.
That's a lot of help, Brandon. Maybe we could maybe talk offline about that too, just kind of where that is and maybe if what our role should be or could be in that as well. That's really good news.
In fact, Courtney, I know I'm actually working with our rep to try and schedule a time for their public safety network team to come up and do a presentation, and I would be happy to invite you guys to that as well.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Brent.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Yeah.
And as always, you can always feel free to contact us, offline. You can either email David directly or any of us on the team. Feel free to call. Okay, hearing none.
Is any attendee from Shasta Reading here? Well, the consortium will want to offer our support if there is anything we can do for help during the current fires. Well, we hope that gets under control soon. Well, thank you very much to all the participants. please feel free to contact us if you have any questions regarding to the topic we have mentioned or any broadband topic in general. Thank you.